one of the things that mediation does is it creates an event, an early event for people to come together and sort of sheath their swords and talk about what can we do to resolve this early. And sometimes we can't resolve it early. Sometimes the mediator has to stay involved with the case. And I know when they sit in front of me, if they're 3 months into litigation and they've done virtually no discovery, I know sometimes what that means is they need a key deposition or an independent medical examination or an expert report or something before they feel comfortable making a good decision about settlement, of course, in the general civil arena. Sometimes that means for me, if I stepped out of the room and let them just go, they'd litigate and litigate and litigate because neither one wants to back down, right? Neither one wants to look weak. So, well, you're going to send me all this discovery, I'm going to send you all this discovery, and I'll show you. And it tends to have a self-perpetuating engine in it. Sometimes the mediator has to say, let me ask you this, before we come back and have another discussion about settlement, what discovery, if we were to laser beam focus, what discovery do you actually need in order to make a good settlement decision? Not to prepare for trial, not even to prepare fully like you would for a deposition, but to make a settlement decision, to get a flavor for the case, to get an idea of, I don't want to offend anybody in the room, but to get an idea of if your client's actually telling you the truth. What would you need to find out before you came back to do that? We pin down those 1 or 2 things. We come back in 6 weeks, 8 weeks, get the transcript from the depot, 10 weeks, whatever it's going to be, and we sit down and do it again. Part of it, to me, is trying to keep them on a mediation or peacemaking kind of a path, a collaborative path. Well, I'll get you that discovery you wanted if you'll just give me a half a day of your client's depot with the understanding that I can continue later if we need to, and suddenly they're collaborating. And I can push back in the table, and as all of us mediators can, and not even have to be involved because they're working together because an event was created that brought them together to have this discussion. Now, why does that event need somebody else, a mediator, in the room? Let's talk about that. I want to ask you all, if you would, to visualize for me, in fact, close your eyes. Visualize for me the last dispute that you were personally involved in. It may have been leaving the house this morning, it may have been last night or yesterday at work, but the last one you were involved in. And here's what I want to ask you. You can open your eyes now. What behaviors were going on in that room where if I were to look in and poke my head in, I would have seen and known that there was a dispute, a conflict? What was going on physically, behavior-wise? Just shout it out. Emotion. How would I see the emotion? Defensive body language? Yeah, what else?
Avoidance.
Avoidance, maybe, yeah.
Raised voices.
Raised voices, absolutely. What else?
Vocabulary.
Vocabulary. Yes. Some of it would not appear in comic strips without asterisks and. All right. What else? Drama and posturing, sure. Name calling. You're such a. What about extremes? You always do this. You never do, right? Because all that stuff, you know, Garth Brooks wrote a great song. We bury the hatchet and leave the handle sticking out. Just for this time, right? All right, so all that's going on. Not our best behavior, right? But as a society, is it fair to say that that's how we are when we're in conflict? We raise our voices, we name call, we fold our arms, we don't. How much listening was going on? Yeah. If we were to take a balance between inquiry and advocacy, what percentage of inquiry would we really have in that discussion? No. Yeah, because that would require us to stop and listen to the answer, right? Unless it was a rhetorical question. You don't really expect me to believe that, do you? All right. So now let me ask you this. If we can agree for a moment that that's kind of how we look as a society when we're in conflict, what would happen if I walked into your conflict, not as a mediator, but just as a guy, and I come walking into the middle of this conflict with the angry voices and the folded body posture and the finger pointing and all that stuff going on, what would happen generally to most of those behaviors? Stop? Yeah, come back to normal quickly? Is that, yeah?
Or maybe just lessen.
Yeah, or lessen some, yeah. Why is that? Let me get this straight. You were just face to face, nose to nose with somebody, arguing, fighting, pointing fingers, calling names, raising your voice, being completely inappropriate in every imaginable way. I walk in, and this is, by the way, somebody who you work with, or somebody who you love, or somebody who's a friend. I walk in, complete and total stranger you just met an hour ago. And all of a sudden, for me, or because of my presence, all these behaviors diminish or go away. Why is that? Embarrassment? So by walking in the room just as a stranger, inherently I'm holding a mirror up to you somehow. I'm making you conscious of your own behavior just by my presence. What else? Intimidation. Intimidated by what?
By an authority figure that suddenly showed up on the scene
Okay.
when there hadn't been any.
All right, when they hadn't, so an authority figure perhaps. I look at it and say I call it the shadow of the black robe, because what it really means is even though I'm just a stranger walking into the room, I just became the swing vote, didn't I? So there's a little bit of politicking going on. I want to appear as reasonable as I can so that he'll side with me and tell her that I'm right, right? That's just inherent in a stranger being in the room. What else?
Fear that I might be wrong.
I'm right. And then somebody else walks in the room and suddenly you think, gosh, I sure hope I better be right now. All right, what else? Privacy. Oh.
None of your business.
None of your business. Yeah, we reserve those ugly behaviors just for ourselves. It's none of your business. Interesting. I think we give ourselves permission to treat the people we love and the people that we work with and see every day with less respect because why? Why?
Because we're familiar with them.
We're familiar with them, yeah. They give us an inherent permission of some kind, right? They'll let us get away with it. I can apologize for it later and it'll be okay. Maybe, if I apologize. Okay, so now, let's take it a step further. I've walked into your conflict, but rather than just being a stranger, I'm a mediator. What could I do, what could I bring that might help? Sorry? Say it one more time.
The accent.
The accent? Neutrality. Yeah, if I don't have a stake in the outcome of either side, that's a good thing, right? What else could I bring that would help you in your conflict? Say again? Listening, yeah. Because we already decided there wasn't much of that going on before I got there. So I can make each of you feel heard. And actually, if you two are the ones having the conflict, Tom can tell me his side. And if I can referee and keep Dennis quiet for just a moment for Tom to finish telling me his side, guess who else has to listen to it? Right? And then I come over here and Dennis tells me his side, and Tom's got nothing better to do but to actually listen for the first time, to Dennis explain without being interrupted what he's really here for, what that's all about. What else can I bring? Solutions. I can brainstorm. I can say, hey, have you thought about this? Or as we mediators love to say, well, I've seen some people work it out in a way like this, and I've seen other people do something like that. Does either of those ideas help you? Right? So they don't shoot the messenger. All right, what else? If I walk into your dispute and go, hey, what's going on here? Stop this. Am I helping much? No? What did I just do? Make it worse? Why? How?
Added chaos.
Added chaos? What else? I what?
Entered the
I entered the conflict. Now I could be offending people, and certainly it's like throwing oil on the fire, right? Okay.
It can also make it better, though, because suddenly you become you're the bad guy, so they're going to quiet, like when a cop shows up for a Mr. or Mrs.
Mm-hmm. So no mediator would ever do that, would they? Actually be the lightning rod for the conflict so that the people who are in the conflict could actually look at each other and say, boy, isn't he ridiculous. Let's work this out and get out of here. We would never do that, no. All right. So a mediator can bring things to that conflict Whether it's the listening or the calmness. I mean, if I walked in, with my arms folded and my voice loud, that's one thing. If I had my hands in my pockets and my shoulders relaxed and just sort of said, hey, what's going on? Does that help? So there are things we can bring that are of value to that settlement discussion that don't necessarily happen if we're not there.